I have so much helpful information to get to you all today. Thanks to everyone who submitted these very thoughtful, thought-provoking questions. I have really good answers for you, so let's get into it. 1, how to get into college with a low SAT score. First of all, I'm just going to point out, mid-1400s, not a low SAT score. I understand for some schools it is. In general, though, not a low score. If you are struggling with your test score, you have a few options. You have 2 main ones. The first is to change your school list, and the second is to bolster another part of your application. Depending on the school you apply to, they might not really care about your SAT score. They might care about other things more like GPA, extracurriculars, academics, etc. You can check this. If you Google the common data set for any school you're interested in, it will list, this is a legal document, the schools are required, I think by law, to submit every year. You can look for the last year. They will rank things as important, kind of important, or not considered. A lot of schools have test scores here, but some of them have it here. So what this means for you is that you might have a school here that you have 2 schools you're deciding between doing a reach between, right? Let's just say it's Columbia and like Brown. You're like, oh, both of these are reaches. I don't really know what to do. However, your SAT score, again, quote unquote low. 1450 is not low, but let's just go with that, 1450. For both of these schools, 1450 would technically be considered low, which is crazy, but this is the reality we live in. What I would suggest to you is look and see which one of them on their common data set does not list SAT score in the important and rather lists it in the very important or the considered, which is, I forgot, that's here. That's in between important and not considered. There's just a considered. So in general, this will change your target and reaches. It won't change your safety. Your safety you should be able to get into no matter what your test score is. That's the definition of a safety, right? Is that just based off of your test alone, you should be able to get in. Having a low SAT score just means that looking into the common data set, you can also ask your college counselor or guidance counselor at your school which schools don't care as much about your SAT score. Having a low SAT score, not a barrier to getting into college. It just might change your list a little, which is not really a problem. You just need to be flexible. Second question, does a personal statement have to be academic? Or can I focus on extracurricular activities instead? No. I mean, yes, no. That's kind of a confusing way to answer it, but no, it does not need to be academic. Yes, it can focus on extracurricular activities. It can be about whatever you want. Yay. There is this misconception I have noticed, particularly with students who watch YouTube college counseling, like tutors. They seem to think that they should be writing something academic. I had a student a few weeks ago submit an essay to me that was a personal statement that was almost basically just like an English paper. That's not what you're supposed to do on the personal statement. You can be intellectual in your personal statement. If you want to show them how reflective you are, you want to show them how you think about things. I've seen really successful essays that do that. So if you want to do that, that's fine. But it certainly does not have to be academic. Most people, I would say, write on extracurricular activities. That's very normal. What you write about, though, you just need to make sure you're showcasing your traits, your good traits, the traits you want to showcase, and then also your successes. One that I think doesn't really get considered that much, but it should, is drive. Like, you want to show these colleges that when you get to campus, you're going to be a really active member of the community, you're going to be taking classes, you have the drive to do whatever it is that you end up doing. Choose academics. It's easy kind of to write about your successes. Same with extracurriculars, right? You can write about your successes. But a lot of people end up writing about things like, this is technically an extracurricular, but jobs. I've seen a lot of students write about part-time jobs they had over the summer or during the school year, and that is a way for them to talk about traits, because something else that kind of goes with traits and successes, I guess, we're going to put 2.5 as responsibility. That's a huge one. I wish more people would talk about responsibility. This is a big deal. So no matter what you choose, it doesn't really matter what, just make sure you're showcasing these things. If you want an essay video, comment below. Just tell me what to do, because every time I do essay videos, they don't get that many hits, which is fine. I don't really care that much, but my point is I don't really know what all of you want. So tell me what you want and I'll make one. Isn't restrictive early action harder to get into than regular decision? Oh my goodness. Thank you for whoever asked this question, because I don't know who, please tell me in the comments. I don't know what YouTuber is pushing this, but some YouTuber must be pushing this, because I get this comment so much from students, even that I tutor. Like, some students will pay for my tutoring session. They will come in and they will ask me this question. It makes me so mad. I'm not mad at them, obviously, and I'm not mad at the person who asked this. And if you think this, I'm not mad at you. I'm mad because you were severely misled by somebody that is taking advantage of the fact that you don't know this system to sell you this stupid myth that if you listen to affects your application. Oh, it just makes me so mad. It just makes me so mad. No. It is easier. It is significantly easier to get in restrictive early action or ED, whatever you want to call it, whatever the school that you're interested in offers the regular decision. People, what they will tell you is, oh, but that's when the alumni, that's when the athletes and the kind of the special admits like the professors, kids, whatever, etc. That's when they apply, so it's harder. One, especially for top schools and at all schools, no matter when you apply, the competition is going to be fierce, okay? I don't understand why people think that the people who apply to Harvard early are somehow better than the people who apply to Harvard regular decision. They're both super, super advanced and very competitive pools. No matter what pool you're in, it's going to be super competitive. Benefit with restrictive early action is that this is demonstrated interest for schools that a lot of them don't have demonstrated interest. They don't track if you come to campus. They don't do these things. This is the demonstrated interest. Dartmouth would be one of those. They don't have a demonstrated interest outside of the fact that applying early is your demonstrated interest. This drives me crazy. Also, colleges build 50% of their incoming class. Typically. It varies. Sometimes it's 40. Typically build at least 30, but it's honestly, in recent years, it's been closer to 40 and 50% of their incoming freshman class with the early pool. I want you to do some simple math for me. If 6,000 people apply, no, I'm really bad at math. Harvard is letting in 1,000 kids this year. This is hypothetical. 1,000 kids. They're going to let 500 in early and 500 in regular. You have 2,000 applying early and you have 40,000 applying regular. Which of these admit rates is higher? Now, I understand this does not control for what I was saying over here, and this is where this theory comes from. It's like, oh, actually, even though it's only the 2,000, they're like the most elite 2,000. I guarantee you have kids that are more impressive than those in this pool. The only difference is that now, Harvard, or wherever you're applying early, thinks that you applied somewhere else early because you'd rather go there than there. And why are they going to let you in if you're not going to choose there and it's going to lower their yield rate? So no, this is such a myth. You should apply early to whatever school you legitimately think you can get into early. Or a reach, I guess is my point. You should be reaching, or at least that's my philosophy. I always think early should be a reach. Please tell me in the comments if it does not make sense, because this is such a big piece of misinformation. It really drives me crazy. Early applications are so important. It makes me so angry that random tutors on here have just decided to take advantage of you all and sell you this so that you buy their course on how to get in. Applying early is good. More attention, you're more likely to get an interview too, because there's just less applicants in your area. There's less people they have to go through. It's demonstrated interest. Also, colleges have been favoring their early admissions process recently, again, with this 40 to 50%. They are trying to build up most of their class with this because they want to know for certain that who they're letting in is going to go. And this is the way to show them. Next question. My current profile doesn't line up with the major I actually want to do. How do I apply someone with a background in STEM to do humanities or vice versa? I'm going to say something here, might be controversial. First thing, you're not going to lie. Don't lie. Lying is bad. And they always catch you. Here's the other thing, though. They don't need to know everything. What I mean by this is, if up until now you've been a very successful pre-political science student, you have amazing internships in political science, you have done really impressive work in political science, you have applied yourself and you have done stellar things, and you realize, oh, I actually want to study biology. There's nothing wrong with that. That being said, I don't want you to write an essay about how all of a sudden you're interested in bio. Again, what did we talk about with the personal statement? You want to highlight your traits, your successes, your responsibilities, and your drive. Tell me, when you switch your major, suddenly are all these positive things going to evaporate? Were you only driven because it was political science and you have some special connection with it? Or are you driven because that's who you are as a student, and no matter what major you do, you will be successful? That is what you need to pitch yourself as. Do not tell them, unless the only exception to this is that if you're applying to a school that has a separate engineering program and you need to apply to that directly, then you do just need to fess up and you need to apply to that engineering program. Duke, I think, has a program like that. There's a few other ones. In general, though, they don't need to know. They also don't really care what your major is. This is not the UK. They don't only let you in for the major. They let you in because they think you're going to be successful. What is going to make them think you're more successful? What you have done or what you want to do? It's going to be what you've done. So, how do you apply somebody with a background that's not in what you want to do? You talk about how good you were in that thing. You talk about that. Do not talk about what you want to do. Don't lie. Again, you don't need to lie. They're going to ask you to declare a major. You can just choose something random. It really does not matter. It's not important. Next question. Is it worth going to an Ivy/elite school? What's the difference between a top and an average school? And is it worth the debt? This is a great question. For the average student, is it worth the debt? The answer is no. This is something that I tell my students a lot. The number one thing you should be looking out for, other than prestige or above prestige, is going to be scholarships and money. If you get a full ride to a school, you should take it. No school is worth going into debt for, especially in this economy. The one exception to that would be if you really want to do finance or you really want to do government work. And by government work, I don't mean NGOs. I mean like working where you would have to be voted in somewhere where there's bureaucracy. Or if you know you really want to go into law. Like if you know you want to go into an arena that's very competitive and cares about name, then it's worth the debt because otherwise you're going to be locked out of the system. Even with that though, there's always law and or med school, which that's where the prestige I think would matter a bit more, certainly for law school. I think that's where it really matters. If you're not going into an industry like that, then no. It's better to just go to a school where you can get a scholarship or you get in-state tuition and it's more affordable. There are also a lot of really good schools that offer scholarship. One, if you could do Questbridge if you're low income, definitely. And then two, other schools offer merit scholarships. Duke has a merit scholarship. USC, the Southern California one, has a merit scholarship as well. You have to apply early to be considered, and I think you're considered automatically. I don't know what the Duke one is like, I'm going to be honest. In general, I would say it's not worth the debt. You have to kind of think of college as doing a few things. One is it makes you smarter, and the other thing is it helps you get a job because it shows that you went to college and that you're smart, blah, blah, blah. You definitely don't need to go to college to show that you're smart, but honestly, from an employer's perspective, that's kind of how they use it. So for the job part, that's the only part where I really think it's worth it to go to an elite school because then you have what I was saying up here with the finance and the law, and then you might be locked out. In terms of getting smarter, no matter where you go, that's going to happen. And here's the other thing too that people don't realize. If you go to a school where everyone goes there because it's their safety and nobody's super excited about it, you want to know what is not being used is their resources. You could be the top of your class at a quote unquote lesser school. You could get all the attention from the professors, you could get all the resources, you could get all the funding to go travel abroad. People, I think, really underestimate how much resources or how many resources they can get at a quote-unquote lesser school. There are so many schools that have so many resources. So when you're thinking about an Ivy versus a normal, quote-unquote, again, school, be thinking about resources. If your school has resources, and if your school has the major you want to do, and if your school has professors that you think you could bond with and you think could guide you on your journey, go there. That would also kind of be the difference between the top and the average school thing is honestly, it's just really the part about the job and the reputation. And I mean, obviously there is a certain amount of clout that you get from going to an elite school. And something that's really nice is, for example, at Harvard, there's always crazy people come to speak. Presidents of other countries, Nobel laureates. I mean, it's really crazy. So from a networking perspective, it's really good. And that's definitely something you don't get. I think at some quote unquote normal places or larger places, you also definitely do get the alumni. Another thing with network, just a final note, is that network is not really important to you if you are like middle income and or your parents went to college and like you kind of know successful people already. The network part is the most important for low income students. And also for students that may not have connections in that field already. There have been studies performed on who the network of Ivies is the most important for. The answer is low income and then also Black and Hispanic students. Because typically it's harder for them to kind of prove that they belong in a space. So having the network to network into those spaces where usually their resumes would be kind of kicked out automatically is very helpful. So the exception to is it worth the debt would be if you fit into a category where you don't have a network and you need one. Also, if you're low income, you would probably be getting a huge tuition discount from a lot of elite places. So at that point, the debt might be significantly less. So next question, speaking of networking, is what is networking like in college? So I kind of just talked about that. There's a lot of speaker events. You should go to any of them that has any speaker in a field that you're interested in. My main advice for networking is be familiar with one thing that author has done or that professor has written about or researched so that you could ask them a pointed question. You would not believe how rare it is for somebody to be asked a question about the research they spent their entire life on. It's really crazy. Professors get paid very little money to do very difficult work on a very small field that nobody really cares about. So if you could ask them a really good question about this, they will absolutely remember you. It is really crazy. Obviously, intellectual curiosity is good for yourself, but it's also really good for networking because you're showing somebody that you're interested in them and that you want to hear their answer. Again, that's actually quite rare. Another thing on biggest networking tip would be the professors. Go to office hours. Go to office hours. It's so important. Oh my goodness, you wouldn't believe. You can get so much good information, so much FaceTime. You go to office hours, they're going to remember that. Professors literally just sit in their office all day. They don't do anything. All they do is sit there. During office hours, I mean, obviously they do things during the day, but they just sit there in office hours waiting for students to pull up. A lot of times they don't pull up, and that's sad. You got to go to office hours. It's crazy. Even if you just go and ask for a reading list, honestly, and then go and talk to them about it. You would be surprised how open professors are to just speaking to students about basically anything. Career networking advice, you're going to have to ask somebody else because I have not been super successful in the career department. Pretty good with education, not so good with the career. So you'll have to ask somebody else. In general, though, they have career center events. My main suggestion would be to just look into the career center because they have so many events and resources that they just don't really advertise that well. I didn't even know, like when I went to Harvard, they actually have like a peer tutoring thing that I could have done and gotten help in a subject that I didn't know. Or I could have gone and had my resume reviewed a few times. And then, yeah, it's just crazy. The other thing too about the career center is before you apply to a job, check it out and figure out if there's alumni in any field you want to go into, because what you do is you send them an email and you say, hey, I'm interested in this. Basically, you ask them to a coffee chat and then you tell them that you're interested. And then if they have a job offer, they can kind of give it to you, or they say, oh, actually, our firm is hiring in this. Why don't I suggest you? So you ask for the coffee chat and then they can kind of put you on that route, which is really nice. The career front in general, though, the networking in college, just try to meet as many people as you can. Try to meet them outside your major. Main thing, though, is the professors, office hours, speakers. Sign up for email lists of departments you're interested in, even if you're not majoring in them, like the Women and Gender Studies department or like the East Asian Studies department. These, in particular, always have crazy speakers coming in. I mean, these are just very well-connected majors in general. 7, are need-blind colleges actually need-blind? Yes, they are. That doesn't mean you're going to get guaranteed aid, though. That's different. So you need to look into the tuition assistance guaranteed by need-blind colleges. That being said, a lot of colleges that are need-blind also could give you scholarship, but not all of them. So you need to check. Need-blind just means they don't consider it. It doesn't mean that they guarantee funding if you get in. Different distinction. I think all the IVs guarantee under a certain income, though, so you can always do that. So yeah, do your research, I guess is my point there. It's very dependent on the school. Last question, how important are awards and languages? Good news, not super important. I don't know why everyone pushes like Science Olympiad and stuff. If you have a Science Olympiad, that's great, good for you. That'll help. You don't need it to get in though. Same with language. I mean, you should have a basic amount of language, just it kind of shows that you're well-rounded, and also it's good for you, use your young brain, get good at something. But no, if you're applying as a math major, you don't need to take that 3rd or 4th year of Spanish. Nobody cares. It's not that deep. Awards, similar. If you have an award, it's great. If you were in a competitive field in math, for example, and your test scores suck and your grades suck and you want to show that you're still really good at it, get an award in it. Sure, go ahead and do that. But it's definitely not the end-all be-all for getting in. I don't understand why these are weighted so much. Extracurriculars are definitely way more important than awards. Publishing, though, is kind of a type of award that I would definitely think about that. Publishing is good. I'm not telling you to quit whatever language you're doing, but don't worry about it, I guess is my point. Okay, everyone, that's it. Thank you for listening. Sorry there's no giveaway this week. I've been a little lazy. I'll do it in my next one, though. There's a few winners from my last video, so don't worry. You will get your time in the College Chingu spotlight, but until then, stay healthy, stay studying, write your essays, and good luck, because I think you're all going back to school now, so good luck with the beginning of the new year. Yay!